Hello, it's Anna Hill here with the Farming Today podcast, where MPs are told that animal products from Germany continued to enter the UK after an import ban was put in place because of the foot and mouth outbreak there.
I was getting calls from inland authorities saying, hang on a minute, I've just got some German whey product turning up. What do I do with it? And I think that really opened the doors to the vulnerable state we've got, because we've not got enough clear communication coming down the pipe from central government about what to do.
We'll hear more about concerns over border checks later. First today, scientists at the John Innes Centre in Norwich have discovered a special genetic signal which allows crops to take up more nutrients from the soil without needing so much chemical fertiliser. They found out how to encourage cereal crops to form partnerships with fungi in the soil, known as arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi, which supply the plant with nutrients. Seed breeders are now using traditional breeding methods to develop elite wheat varieties which can use this trait. Dr. Miriam Charpentier took me to the glasshouse where her team has been working.
If you have chemical fertilizer in the soil, this will inhibit the relationship between those microbes and the plant.
Does that mean it won't try?
It won't
try hard?
No.
It won't use its actual facility that it's got in the plant?
Exactly. The plant senses that it can pick up nutrient in other way. So why the plant would bother doing endosymbiotic relationship with soil microbes if it can just freely pick up chemical nutrient? All crops, cereal crops, can perform this endosymbiotic relationship with the fungi, the arbuscular mycorrhiza fungi. However, farmers need to have crops given a good yield. And for this, they have to apply chemical fertilizer because the soil doesn't have enough nutrient to promote the plant growth and the yield they expect. But we cannot say stop spraying chemical fertilizer, right, and use biological fertilizer, because spreading so much chemical fertilizer has already changed the composition of the soil, meaning that even if we now use arbuscular mycorrhiza fungi in the field, in crop field, to promote the acquisition of mineral nutrient and water, the association doesn't work because there are residual nitrate and phosphate which inhibit this association with the fungi.
It inhibits the association with the fungi?
Yeah. This means that we needed to find a transition solution. This transition solution is simple. It's like telling the farmer you can use the arbuscular mycorrhiza, which is a biological fertilizer, still spray some chemical fertilizer, but maybe reduce this amount of chemical fertilizer and sustain the same yield.
Would you have to actually develop a specific variety of wheat?
So the discovery is great in a way that this is non-GM. The breeders are introgressing this mutation in their elite variety. This is classical breeding. It takes years. I think each year it goes through evaluation. I guess for a commercial variety, this will have to wait a few years.
Dr. Miriam Charpentier there at the John Innes Centre. Now, this week we're exploring the opportunities and challenges of being a tenant farmer. Instead of renting from private landlords, some tenants rent land owned by a local council. Council farms were originally set up to provide a living for veterans of the First World War and have evolved into a route for people to get into farming, often those new to the industry. In recent years, many rural councils facing financial problems have sold some or all of their farms, and now a reorganisation of local government means further uncertainty. Sarah Swadling reports from Devon, where the Conservative-led County Council wants to keep its tenant farms.
Liz Warner heads into the calf shed on one of Devon County Council's 64 tenant farms.
I've always lived in a rural community. Stop it! Always lived in a rural community and left school and knew I wanted to work within agriculture. So I went off and worked in ag, but in a more office-based situation. I met my husband, he had his own contracting business, and I think we just decided after a few years we were that sick of working on other people's farms or for other people in ag, we decided actually it would be really nice to do it ourselves. So we decided to start looking for tenancies.
Why did council farms appeal to you?
We were new entrants to farming, neither families farmed, so we didn't have that sort of historical weight behind us when we went looking for tenancies. Certainly, I think we would have struggled going into the private sector straight away, whereas by going down this route, we're able to cut our teeth, to prove a bit of business resilience, to get a bit of cash flow, business accounts, everything else behind us, before then hoping to look to move towards the private tenancy sector.
Liz and Marcus's landlord is under huge financial pressure, like many local authorities. But the chairman of the Farms Estates Committee, councillor Jeremy Yabsley, says the farms remain an important asset, even in tough times.
It generates a net revenue income of 500,000-ish a year for the wider county council. So it is self-sufficient and produces a profit, as well as all the other things it does.
How do you justify keeping that farm's estate going when perhaps it could be cashed in for a considerable sum?
If we cashed it in, it might make 100 million, half 1 year's highway maintenance requirement. You wouldn't even notice it. It has been discussed. There was a review in 2010. It was considered that the wider value to the county council and the community far outweighed that quick bit of cash. If it was quick, it would just be gone. So it's the crown jewels.
In Crediton, Sandford Orchards Cider employs 30 people and supports local apple growers. In the beginning, its founder, Barney Butterfield, got his fledgling cider business going on a council farm.
We had a herd of pigs and some Devon red cattle, as well as a bit of arable. I'd grown organic table birds for Sainsbury's for 18 years. It took a while for the cider business to grow, and that's a gift that the county estate gave me, was the ability to try these things out. I might have turned left and gone straight into organic poultry if the cider wasn't any good, but being in an orchard and making cider was the special thing for me, and that's what I ended up pursuing.
But the existence of county council farms is thrown into uncertainty because county councils themselves are set to disappear. The government is restructuring local authorities so that the two-tier system of district and county councils will be replaced by a single layer of unitary authorities, with the prospect of Devon being run by more than one unitary. Councillor Jeremy Yabsley.
It does certainly raise some concerns, doesn't it? Or three unitaries, they'd all want their bit of the farm's estate perhaps, and then it wouldn't be worth keeping perhaps. But if it could be run as one, with the shareholders as the unitaries, then I think that is the way we are trying to push.
So perhaps keeping some sort of overarching Devon structure.
Partnership arrangement so it stays as a whole.
At the cider works in Crediton, Barney Butterfield believes county council farms are a unique and valuable resource to bring new talent into the food and farming economy for the future.
One of the things, if you're going to try and scale a business, is room. If you're starting outside the sphere of agriculture, I'm not from a farming family. County farms didn't mind. They're looking at the future of agriculture, they're looking at the future of employment, and people need to know that these are opportunities open to everybody. You don't have to come from a farm to rent a county council farm, and I think it's really important that people know that.
Barney Butterfield there with Sarah Swadling. Animal products from Germany were still getting into the UK days after the government banned imports in response to cases of foot and mouth there. That's according to evidence given to the Environment, Food and Rural Affairs Select Committee of MPs as they started a new inquiry into animal and plant diseases. In the first session, held yesterday, MPs were looking at biosecurity and in particular the border checks done on goods coming into the UK. Heather Simons has more details.
Hi Anna. Yes, much of this first session focused on illegal meat that's being brought into the UK under the guise of personal imports. Now, when I say illegal meat, that's meat that's often not gone through checks to confirm it's disease-free and conforms to UK health standards. And it can be a biosecurity risk if, for example, it comes from an area where there's a disease like African swine fever, which could then be spread to the UK. Lucy Manzano from the Dover Port Health Authority told the committee the problem is growing.
These presentations have gone up and up and up. So where they started off quite small, we're seeing vehicles that have been adapted, or coaches without passengers, as a simple example, that are full of products of animal origin. I mean, really quite startling.
Almost 100 tonnes of illegal meat was seized at the port of Dover last year. Lucy Manzano says they're checking vehicles coming off passenger ferries.
If we think that on one ferry, for example, you could have 80 vans coming through, that's a lot of work. And actually, if we're going to crack this, we have to have a strategy. We have to get this food off the lanes. We are looking at this food on those live tourist lanes that you would have all travelled through when you've done your holiday. They were not designed to be pulling out huge tonnes of bloody, wet, dirty meat that cannot be contained or washed down.
So Heather, what about the border force? Where does that come in?
Well, the committee was told that applying controls on personal imports is a role for the border force, but port health authorities are sometimes given extra funding from DEFRA to work alongside them. And Helen Buckingham, a chartered environmental health practitioner, told the committee that in her experience, the border force aren't conducting searches for personal imports, and criminals often aren't being prosecuted.
Even where Border Force have permanent teams in situ, they don't, of their own volition, go and look for food. If they find illegal personal food, it's a happy accident. It's not something that they go and look for. Secondly, Chair, you mentioned about a deterrent. It's also my understanding that most of this stuff is just taken away as voluntary surrender. So yes, the importer, the criminal in this case, has lost the value of their consignment. But no, there's no punishment because the legislation is a bit confusing and difficult in this space.
I did put this to the Home Office, which said the Border Force ensure all goods brought into the UK by passengers are appropriately declared and abide by customs and excise rules.
So where is this meat going?
Well, the committee heard evidence that illegal meat is being sold in plain view on high streets in the UK, with consumers often unaware of what they're buying. Some of it is being picked up inland. Helen Buckingham gave this example of illegal meat being found almost by accident, it seems.
It wasn't that long ago, we had DVLA pulled over a vehicle for a licensing issue, opened the back to have a look, and there it was, chocked full. Even had a till and weighing scales. So masquerading as personal, but clearly not.
So what does this mean for biosecurity when we have something like the case of foot and mouth in Germany earlier this year?
Well, that was mentioned. And Helen Buckingham said that although the government banned the import of animal products from Germany to try and stop the disease spreading to the UK, systems took several days to be updated. And in that time, some animal products were getting through.
I was getting calls from inland authorities saying, hang on a minute, I've just got some German whey product turning up. What do I do with it? And I think that really opened the doors to the vulnerable state we've got because we've not got enough clear communication coming down the pipe from central government about what to do. The guidance, my BCP colleagues will tell you that the guidance about what to do and how to deal with this stuff didn't come through quick enough.
I asked DEFRA about it, and they told me the government will do whatever it takes to protect our nation's farmers from the risk posed by foot and mouth disease. That is why restrictions were immediately brought in on animal products from Germany to prevent an outbreak. The statement goes on, robust biosecurity controls were implemented at pace following confirmation of the outbreak.
Heather, thank you very much. That's all we've got time for now. I'm Anna Hill. The producer was Heather Simons. Farming Today is a BBC Audio Bristol production.